folks, and welcome to Handpan Fundamentals. I'm Rosie, and I've got a guest here. This is Jessie.
Hi everyone.
She plays clarinet. That's not a handpan.
It's not even round.
But what's important when you play the clarinet is breathing. So I thought it would be really interesting to speak to someone who breathes for their job about how it can help us non-breathing musicians.
It's like the number one thing. It's the first thing I talk about. String players, percussion players. Because the upbeat, the energy, the impetus that you have to use to action a sound, if you combine it with the breath, you're going to immediately get more clarity. For example, we were just recording some top secret content. And I don't know how much you were aware of your breath. You might do a video and you'd be like, oh, it was so stressful. And actually the reason is possibly you've been sort of holding your breath for 3 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. I find that whenever I have to try and play fast, I breathe in, my shoulders go in and I'm really tense. And then I'm like, why can't I move as fast as I could before? But that is a bad habit.
Mm-hmm. It's also not a bad habit. It's also kind of a quite a natural thing. Like if you're in a fight or flight situation, when you're suddenly flooded with endorphins, you don't think, oh, I'm going to do some deep belly breathing. You're like, you go shallow because you need to run fast, because when you're running fast, you're not down here.
Yeah.
You're like,
so we literally say it. It's like I hold my breath. It's like this kind of anticipation. And when the camera's on and the recording's on, the stress does go up, and it's kind of like, oh, how can I stay calm? But so do you find that you don't get stressed like that because you play a wind instrument?
No, it's more maybe a musical thing, because I think everybody's stress response, it presents in a different way. So one person might get super sweaty hands, or one person might find that they're not breathing, or somebody might get really tense shoulders. But so yes, it possibly does in some ways, but I think it's more about musicality and especially when you're playing with people, when you can breathe together, like at the beginning of a phrase or at the end of a phrase or within a gesture, it can really help connection with another musician. But when you're on your own also, it can give you, I think it's a sense of space.
Because if we're going to start playing together, and Jessie and I come from classical world, so when you start playing together, normally no one counts in, do you? But you do it by breathing together.
Yeah.
And it is, even though I don't need to breathe to make a sound, I'm still trying to catch that breath so that we can...
We could do it. We could do a little silly exercise now. We're just going to play four beats. And I'm going to breathe to show what the tempo is. Just going to play 4 crotchets. Whatever, 4 notes. Do a really hard one. There's so much communication in the breath, right?
Yeah, and so that's catching an upbeat, isn't it? That's when you have the speed in your mind and we need to play together. And if you're kind of in the middle of a phrase, there can be something where you have a little gap and you need to start together, and that's going to tend to be even more eye contact, isn't it? Because you can be led by breath, as Jessie was doing, but you can also work together. If we breathe together...
There's more chance you're going to be together.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. First couple we didn't, because we'd never done it before.
In fact, I think that was such a good exercise. Can we please try it again?
Yeah.
And I will not hold my breath during it because it doesn't really help.
Okay, so this time, right, you breathe with me.
Yeah.
So you were watching, weren't you?
Yeah, I was
you played,
watching and
but
I was
you weren't breathing.
more
so
tense.
Let's try, okay, you breathe with me. I wasn't clear on that. That's my fault. Let's do a different one. I don't know if these tempos actually changing. Do a different one. And as well as connecting together, just to be together, if you're playing a phrase, if you can... So... this is very, very Western classical, but the great cellist Stephen Isserlis, the one thing I took away was if you can just sing the phrase. If you can sing it, you can play it, but we can't sing without our breath either.
Yeah. So by a phrase, you mean like a tune?
Yeah.
And
any, an improvisation that has an arc, any tune has a little rainbow to it. And if you can breathe through that arc, or take several breaths through it, you can give it more shape, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think the main thing that I see, especially around beginner players, is a lot of tension in the whole body. And I'm always sort of shouting at people to relax, which is...
And it's an interesting one. I'm thinking about the pan, right? Because it's actually resting. Is it resting on your tummy?
Yeah, this is the way I sit
As you
with
sit.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can still breathe, it's not going to come off.
But here's the interesting one, and it's a thing that I talk about a lot with my students, is we all think about our breath being here. I don't know where the camera angle is too, but in your belly. But if you think about where your lungs are inside your body, your lungs are inside your rib cage, and it expands as you breathe in and contracts. But your rib cage goes right the way around. You've got ribs in your back as well. Cute aside story of my wife with our little nephew, and they were having a little cuddle, a snuggle. She was like, "Can I kiss your neck?" He was like, "Yes." And I have another neck at the back. Oh, so cute. But you have another like you have more breath. You've got more lungs at the back. And if you think about relaxing so I don't know also about posture when you're sitting with handpan, do you arch your back or not? But if you can kind of this is kind of a strange thing to be sitting and doing. But if you can tip your hips under, as opposed to kind of sticking your butt out, tip your hips under, it gives more space for your lower floating ribs at the back to also expand. So you can find yourself taking a big breath. You can even do the exercise now. If you sit up like as if you were supposed to, like boobs out, bum out, the way, if you were home and your parents were like, sit up straight, you'd be like, try and take a breath in that really tense upright posture. You can't really, and then if you turn your hips and just relax your back, it's like so much more air, and it feels nicer as well.
Yeah.
So if you can think like that, posture will also help, I assume.
Yeah.
Making assumptions.
I mean, it's definitely something that I've suffered from in the lockdown. Is like I'm like, come over and record on my squishy sofa, and we just kind of like trying to, and I do a lot of filming from here, but it's so worth trying to think about ways that I can bring the posture, wherever I'm sitting or standing, because often in performance you do get crammed in a funny small space, isn't it? And finding ways to take up your space. And
it might be why I've chosen to sit cross-legged on the sofa actually for a lot of the recording we did today. Or when I had my feet down, I was more on the front of the sofa so that you're not doing that.
Yeah, it's good for slumping and watching TV, but it's not like
it's a dreamy sofa for that.
Yeah, so like whatever you have, I guess it's whether you're sitting on the edge of it or you're sitting cross-legged, it's finding a way to be grounded and to breathe into your body.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more handpan videos every week. This is Jessie Grimes. She is fantastic. Check out more of her things, including her garden jam. It's amazing.
Jessie's homemade garden jam. Stick that in on YouTube, it'll come up.
Jessie's homemade garden jam. And don't forget to breathe.
Yeah. Weird short torso and long legs. I'm out of proportion.
This is for the vid.
Hey guys, it's important to know.
Yeah,
it could come up in the coming minutes. Do people think that your guests are constantly farting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you?
Yes.
Right.
100%.